Hello and welcome back to part 4 of this series where I show you guys how to make stuff in Terraria using mods. So today I'll be showing you guys how to make a bow, and also I'll be showing you guys how to make a projectile, a custom one actually. So this today might be a little complicated for some of y'all, but um, if you guys just follow along and if you guys ask questions in the comments, if you guys need any help, then we'll be able to make something like this: a custom bow with custom arrows. And yeah, so to get started, we have to first open up the project folder. If you guys have been following along the series, you guys should have a folder like this. But if you guys don't, you guys can just kind of follow along the basic, or like you guys can just kind of like kind of copy what I'm doing, but also switch things around whenever I guess you guys need to. But yeah, other than that, let's get started. So first of all, we're thinking of making a bow, right? But what kind of bow? Do we just wanted it to be a normal bow, or do I want it to be like a custom bow? For right now, I just want to make a normal custom bow, like similar to a copper bow, but I'm gonna make it a tiny bit faster, like the one you saw right now. So for us to do that, we have to create the bow. So in the item folder that we have, click on add and then create another class, uh, file class named. I'm gonna name it dirt bow. So then we add it. And now that this thing is open, we go into using, or we type in using Terraria to use the Terraria library, and then using Terraria.id to be able to use the IDs, or to make our own ID, I guess, for our bow. So in the internet, right next to the internal class dirt bow, we're gonna have to add the mod item. So we're gonna have to type in mod item, and we have created a mod item class, or we have added the class mod item to our item. So now we have to set up the basic set defaults. So I'm just going to set this up real quickly. You guys can copy it down if you want, but I'm just going to get to the part where it's different than the actual sword. So I have now added the damage, width, height, use time, use animation, knockback, value, rare, rare assist color, and auto reuse. I would rather, if I was you guys, and if you guys were making a normal bow, then I would turn on auto use. That way, if you hold down the mouse button, you keep shooting without having to keep pressing the mouse button. But yeah, now we're gonna get into the things that are a little different than our actual bows or dirt sword. As you can see in our dirt sword, we have damage type set to melee. So in our bow, instead of melee, we're gonna have to change it to range. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste it over here. And you see how it says melee, change it to ranged, and there you go. Now we have a ranged bow, or a ranged class basically. And now we're also gonna have to add the use style. So item.useStyle is now gonna be item use style id dot shoot. So this will now look like a shooting. I guess like it will look like a bow that's being used like in normal game. And also we can't forget about the noise. We want to add the sound. So uh, the use sound is now going to be sound id dot item, not one but five. Item 5 is just the typical normal, I guess, bow sound. So whenever you shoot, it goes like it's like a shooting noise. But yeah, that's the sound we want to have. So that's our class, our style, and our sound. Now we're getting into the actual uh, stuff that you guys might not have seen before. All that stuff you saw me type right now is stuff you might have seen, but it's a little different. But this stuff is not stuff you've seen before. So we're gonna type in item dot no melee. So this classifies the item as non-melee weapon. So if an enemy were to get in front of you, it wouldn't do damage to that enemy. It would just kind of like ignore him basically. And then item dot shoot. This one we can type in ammo id dot arrow. So this will shoot any item that's classified as an arrow. So now we're going to item dot shoot speed. So item shoot speed is how fast it shoots an item out, and I'm gonna make it a 10. Oh wait, I need to add a little. There you go. All right, there you go. Now item shoot speed. I'm gonna make it a 10, so that's how fast the bow shoots an item. It shoots it every 10 ticks basically. And then item dot use ammo. So item use ammo is basically the same thing as item shoot, but instead of just shooting that arrow out, this will decrease the actual um, ammo. So like this will look for any ammo type that's considered an arrow in your inventory, and then decrease that ammo type, I guess you could say. So now we have our set defaults. This is the only difference between the sword and the bow. So these two sections are the only differences. And now I'm just gonna add a normal, I guess a basic recipe, like a quick one. I'm just gonna add a real quick one. I already kind of made it on the side, but yeah, it's gonna take 15 dirt blocks to make this item, and it requires a tile called dirt anvil tile to craft. So yeah, this is my basic custom and like simple recipe, so that way I don't have to spend too much time on it. But yeah, so this is our bow like item basically. So now we just gotta add a sprite. If you guys don't already have a sprite, you guys can go to this website. It's called Pixel Art. I'm gonna link it down in the description. You guys can use it. And this is where I made my, I guess, simple like pixel drawing. And it's I just put a copper bow and painted a little bit of dirt on top of it. But yeah, that's basically it. All you have to do now is just move or copy the actual image into the item folder and name it the same as your CS file. So my CS file is called dirt bow. As you can see, it's dirt bow here. So I'm gonna name my PNG the same thing. So dirt bow. And now we have a bow. And this bow already, if you guys only wanted to make a bow, this is it. This is all you needed. But for now, for those who want to make their own custom projectiles, this is when it starts getting a little more complicated and a little more, I guess, difficult for some people to, I guess, follow along. So first of all, what you're going to want to do is also add another item called, I'm just going to name mine dirt arrow. So yeah, I made a dirt arrow item. Do the same thing. You add the using Terraria, and then also using Terraria .id. So, and then here in right next to the internal class, type in mod item. So we're just gonna make the item right now, actually. So let's just add the basic set defaults. So for set defaults, you just have to type in public override void set defaults, and then delete this section or this little line if it pops up. If it doesn't, then it's fine. And then we just add the damage. I'm just gonna make my damage equal to 10, lowercase d actually, and then item dot width is equal to 30. It doesn't matter. Item dot max stack. The standard basically for Terraria nowadays is 9,999. So if you're making a projectile, then that's what you want to set yours as. So 9,999. And then item dot consumable. So this would just make the stack or you basically your stack size go down every time it gets used. And then item dot knockback. This would just give a knockback to your your actual arrow. And then item dot value. This one you can set it as anything if you want. It doesn't matter. Item dot rare. I'm just gonna give it a value of 2. I think it's white. Item dot shoot. So this one is okay. So now we're in the other part that is not normal or something that you guys might not be used to seeing in normal mod items. So this is a different part again. So in this one, we're gonna want to add item dot shoot. So item dot shoot is also like what the bow I guess has. So for item shoot, we don't want to add arrow.id on this one. For this one, we're gonna want to change, or we're gonna have to give it the actual location of our actual projectile. So for right now, we're just gonna leave it empty because we don't have the actual projectile set up yet. But yeah, so item.shoot is still empty, and then item.shoot speed. Shoot speed is gonna be equal to 3. You can set that to anything you want. Then item.ammo. So for this one, you also want to add ammo.id or ammo.id.arrow. So this will classify your actual item as an arrow. So whenever you shoot with the bow, it also sees this item as an arrow, and it'll decrease the actual stack that you have accordingly. So all that stuff, and then that is it actually. And then you just have to add a custom recipe, which I'm just gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna make it to where it's only one dirt one dirt block to make one, I guess, arrow. So yeah, so this is our item, our actual arrow item. Now we're gonna, add the image to it. So this can be uh this can be the same image that you're gonna use for the actual projectile. So you can so basically for today we're only gonna use two images, and it's only the bow and the projectile. So for the arrow, we're just gonna name it dirt arrow or dirt arrow, which is the same thing as the actual CS file. And now we have our dirt arrow item. But now we need to shoot, or now we have to make something that shoots out of this arrow, basically. So now you see how we have a tiles folder and an items folder. Now, instead of having those two, now we're going to have three of them, three different folders. So now we're going to add another folder called Projectiles. Projectiles is just like another term for things that get shot out. So like bullets, basically. And inside that projectiles folder, we're going to add another item, and it's going to be a class as well. And then we're going to name it dirt arrow. And now, right next to the dirt arrow, the name of your projectile is going to be dirt arrow projectile. So now add it, and now we have this. So just like everything, just set up the using Terrarium, and then using Terraria .id. So this is setting up all the classes or the libraries, and then we set this items class as a mod projectile. So instead of mod item or mod tile, now it's mod projectile. So for mod projectile, it's a little different how we use the actual set defaults, but it's the same function, same override function. So just type in public override void set defaults, and delete this. And instead of using item, it's going to be projectile dot width, and then you can set it to anything, and then height also, and then projectile dot arrow. So projectile dot arrow will classify this projectile as an arrow, so it's like self-explanatory. And then projectile dot friendly, this will, I guess, classify your arrow or your projectile as friendly. So if you were to shoot your own teammate and you don't have, I guess, the challenge or the PvP thing on, it won't deal damage. It will just go straight through them. And then we're gonna classify this projectiles class as damage. We're gonna classify it as a range. So damage class equals ranged. So now this item has, or this projectile has a class of ranged. So now if you kill something, we'll be like, oh, range class killed you or something like that. Yeah. Now we're gonna add something that's important. Projectile dot time left. So this will give your projectile like a certain lifespan. So if it doesn't get hit, or if it doesn't hit anything and it just keeps traveling like in the world, it won't just keep existing. It'll die within a certain time. So 1200 for me. I don't want it to last too long or too little, so this is just the perfect amount. And then this is where I guess I might lose someone or might lose people, because this is where it gets complicated. But I'm gonna try my best to explain everything step by step and explain why I'm doing stuff. So just follow along. So type in AI type. So AI type, we're gonna give the arrow an AI basically. It's not that complicated, but yeah, just keep following along. Projectile ID dot wooden arrow friendly. This will basically give the arrow the same, I guess, AI as an arrow. So act, or a wooden arrow. So it'll act like a wooden arrow, but it won't be exactly like a wooden arrow because of what we're gonna do, like actually next. So yeah. So now we're gonna make a custom AI. So now, in order to do that, we have to type in public override void AI. So we're gonna have to think about physics, not physics, but just like simple math, basically. All right. So I hope I'm not losing you guys, but okay. So first of all, we're gonna try to understand how, I guess, an arrow works, right? You shoot it, and then it goes down, it arcs down because gravity and stuff, right? And it also has a certain velocity to that arrow. So in order to, I guess, make our own gravity apply to that actual object or item or projectile, we have to type in projectile dot AI and then two brackets, open and close, and then a zero inside those two brackets. So projectile AI index of 0 plus equal to 1f. So this is basically like a timer, but I won't explain it yet on how it's used. But right now, just follow along and I'll explain. So now type in if parentheses projectile dot AI index of 0 is greater than or equal to 15f, and then close it, and then curly brackets. Oh wait, there you go. Curly brackets, and inside the if statement, we type in projectile AI 0 or index of 0 is equal to 15f. All right, and then under that, we're gonna type in projectile AI, or no, not AI, but we're gonna type in projectile velocity dot y plus equal to 0.1 f. Okay, so this whole thing, the thing we just wrote right now, this is in charge of gravity. So projectile AI index of 0 plus equal to 1f. This is basically like a timer. So every time this function gets called, it increases projectile AI index of 0. So this is basically one variable. This will increase it by 1 every time it gets called, or whenever this function gets called. So this is like a timer. And then in this section, it's going to check if the timer has reached 15 or above, or if it's anything above 15. And if it has, then it keeps it at 15. So basically, whenever you shoot it, it starts counting up towards the 15 tick mark, and then once it reaches that 15 tick mark, then it makes it true, basically. So this thing will always keep running. And then this little function right here is calling projectile velocity. So it's getting the actual projectile you shot. It's getting the velocity and adding, and it's adding 0.1 to the actual y. But whenever it comes to vectors, point plus 0.1 is basically kind of decreasing it. So instead of going up, it's going down. So every time this function gets called, now that it's above 15, so whenever this finishes reaching the 15, this if function will keep getting itself called because it's already automatically set to 15, and apply the gravity effect to the actual projectile. So this is just gravity, and that is basically it for gravity. Now we're just gonna have to add the actual thing that, I guess, allows the actual item to, or the actual projectile to rotate towards the actual location of towards the location of where the actual arrow is going. So this stuff you don't have to really know. You just gotta have to type it down, or you just have to write it down. Projectile dot rotation is equal to projectile dot velocity dot to rotation, and then don't close it yet, plus math helper dot pi over 2. Okay, so some of you guys might get an error here. So whenever it comes to modding or whenever making a game, there's always a class or a library that most people will always keep using, and that library is called Microsoft XNA Framework. So this one got automatically added to me because I clicked tab on the actual math helper autofill thing that came out. But yeah, for some of you guys, it might not have like automatically filled in, but yeah. So if you have an error here, type this Microsoft XNA Framework. That's like a publicly known library. It's already on your computer. It just does a lot of math for you. That way you don't have to do it all by yourself or manually. So this would just kind of help with the math. But this is basically what this is doing. Is just getting the actual direction of velocity. So where the actual arrow velocity is pointing towards, and then getting the rotation and doing some math here and applying that rotation to the actual projectile image. So yeah, this is stuff you don't have to, I guess, actually know right off, or like right off your head. You just have to write it down once in a while. But yeah, now we're done with the actual rotation and gravity. Now we're gonna make it to where it doesn't go above beyond a certain speed, or certain, like, I guess speed, in short terms. Or yeah. So now to do that, we just type in if projectile velocity dot y. So this is looking at the y-axis, or the y speed, I guess. And if it's above 16f, then we're gonna have to equal projectile dot velocity dot y is equal to 16. So if it ever goes above 16, it would just make it go back to 16. It'll never make it go any amount over 16. So just keep it at 16. So yeah, this is AI. This is all we have to do now. Nothing else. That is it. But I know some of you guys might want to be like, oh, I want to add, some like cool dust effects whenever it hits uh, a block, or something like that, right? Um, you don't have to add this, but it would be nice to actually have cool effects for like whenever your arrow hits a block. So we can just add the public override void void on kill, and then this. So this function will get called when the arrow gets, I guess, killed. It's not technically getting killed. It's just hitting something, and then it's basically telling the game, oh, I hit something, and now I'm just gonna stop existing, right? So for this one, you can do sound engine dot play sound, and then sound id dot dig. So sound id dot dig would just play the dig sound whenever it hits something. It won't actually dig, but yeah, it'll just make the dig sound. And then you want the actual sound to be played on the actual projectile position. So projectile dot position. So this will play the sound on the actual position of the arrow. So it will play where it hits the arrow. So, or where the arrow hits. And then for the dust particles, if you guys want any of that, you guys can type in for int I is equal to 0, and then I is less than 10. And then in here, or inside the for loop, let me just organize everything real quick. Inside the for loop, you're going to want to type in dust, and then I want to call it dust hit. Dust hit. So let me explain why I wrote this. So I want whenever I want, or let me just explain why I wrote all this. So what I want was for my item to make a sound whenever it hits something or whenever it dies. I wanted to make a sound, and I also wanted to make a dust particle effect. And I want this dust particle effect to be actually, visible. So I'm making it loop 10 times. That way it looks like it hit something heavy or something really big. So right now we're just going to be making the dust particles. So in order to make a dust particle, you have to call the class and then give that item, or that actual object, a name. So I'm going to call mine dust hit. Yours could be anything else. This can be anything, but just make sure to keep using that name. So yeah, so now you're gonna have to type in dust dot new dust direct, and then type in projectile dot position. So this will summon the actual dust particles in the position within the actual width and height of the actual projectile. So you type in projectile width and projectile height. And then I want the dust particle to be dirt. So dust id dot dirt. So whenever my arrow hits a block, it will make the sound. It'll make a dust particle appear somewhere on the actual projectile position, and summon the dirt, I guess, particle effect. And now I want to add custom, I guess, properties to my dust. So I want to do dust hit. So that's the name of my dust. Hit is equal, or dot no gravity. So this would just make it look like it goes up and it doesn't go back down. And then dust hit dot velocity, so this will give it initial velocity to the actual item, so 1.5 f. So this would, yeah, that would just give it initial velocity, so whenever it spawns in it just shoots out. And then I want my dust hit to have a scale of times 0.9. So yeah, this will set the initial scale, the initial velocity, and have no gravity. So yeah, so that's basically it. This is our projectile. We have the set defaults, but this stuff is a little different. It's considered an arrow. It's a friendly. It has the class of ranged. It has a certain lifespan, and it has an AI type similar to a wooden arrow. And we made custom AI to give it gravity and what's gonna call it a limit on how fast it gets pulled down or how fast it can actually move. And then it plays a custom sound, or not a custom sound, but it's just a sound whenever it hits something, and then it makes particle effects. So yeah, that's basically it for the projectile. And now, like we did for the item arrow, the dirt arrow, we're gonna add the same image that we have for our item arrow to the projectile. So now we just gotta name it the same thing. So dirt arrow projectile. There you go. So dirt arrow projectile. So I'm not sure if I told you guys this, but we have for the arrow, it has to be a specific direction, I guess you could say. So this bottom part is going to be, I guess, the back part of the arrow. The top part is the front part of the arrow. So this is how my arrow looks like. So this top part is the front, and then this back part is the back. So just letting you guys know that. And yeah, so now we have all that set up, and we can go back into the game, make sure everything is saved. Oh wait, no. Before we do that, don't go back into the game. Remember when we, I guess, gave the dirt arrow no item dot shoot? Now we can add the item dot shoot. So for this, we're gonna have to type in mod content dot projectile type, and then we're gonna type in inside. We're gonna type in those two arrows. Type in projectiles with an S dot dirt arrow projectile, and then outside of those arrows are two arrows. Type in two parentheses, and then boom. Now we have item dot shoot, and it'll shoot out our actual projectile. So now we have our dirt arrow shooting out our custom projectile. But yeah, that's basically it for our custom projectile and custom bow. Now we just go back into the game, build plus reload, go to our test world, and then we check to see if we have our bow. Yeah, so we have our dirt bow. It does 11 damage like we wanted it to. And then, well, let me just resummon it back in, and then we have our dirt arrow here. So yeah, look, if we pull out our bow, we shoot our custom arrow. And you can mess around with all the AI and stuff, and like add custom damage and stuff, or the actual shoot speed of your item. But yeah, and now if we get rid of this and we just get normal arrows. So let me just pull out normal arrows. Our bow should be able to shoot those arrows too. You see it now, it shoots out the normal arrows. So yeah, this is how we, I guess, make a bow, a custom bow, with custom stats and everything, and our own custom arrow. And yeah, so that's basically it for today. This one was a little more complicated, but trust me, this is basically the easy stuff. We might get it. I might get into the actual more complicated stuff, like summoning actual projectiles and like on your mouse and having giving effects to your actual weapons and stuff. So if you guys are looking forward to all that stuff, then leave a like, subscribe, comment down below what you guys want to see, because I wouldn't mind just doing that stuff, like whatever you guys tell me to do, because that stuff I like programming and stuff. So if you guys want to see me mod another game, or like find tutorials or make tutorials on how to mod other games, and leave that in the comments. And yeah, that's it. If you guys ever watched my other videos, go ahead and leave a like on them too, subscribe, and yeah, that is it. So I'm gonna leave you guys there. So bye bye and God bless.